Sometimes you just need that one word, Vishantini, for you to spark up your day or spark up your life in a way, right? So it did happen for me. When we look at environment as one of the biggest issue and the biggest thing that's going on.
I can see so much of passion in you. When you were talking about what you're doing, I can see so much of passion. Well, this is a very good thing.
Because I love what I do.
When you were saying all this biodegradable and all this enzyme, and then you were saying steroids, if I'm not wrong, you have to add on.
Yes, I do really love to give my sharing, especially to the young engineers and also the young graduates out there.
Hi everyone, so welcome to my episode of today's The Innovators Minutes, or also known as Time. Today we have Mr. Amar, the Managing Director of AMR Environmental Sdn Berhad. So hi Mr. Amar.
Hi Vishantini, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you doing?
Okay, fine, thank you. Despite the MCO, I think, things are running good.
That's good to hear. So I got to know you through LinkedIn mainly. So ever since I got to know you through LinkedIn, I've been following you. And what actually catch me interesting about you is that your content is very much interesting. The way you actually deliver your content, it's very catchy. So I actually like the creativity mindset of yours itself, because there's one that actually catch my attention. There was this fine morning you were having your breakfast, and you were making your bread and you wanted to have your breakfast, and immediately you just took the phone to record and you wanted to deliver your content, and that actually is very smart. So I actually liked it. You're doing it spontaneously, and that's actually very creative. So because you don't actually plan out, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to plan out 9 o'clock, I need to shoot this, but rather than doing that, you actually went very spontaneous of doing it. So that actually really catch my attention, because not everyone has this, can do it very spontaneously and can come up with idea there and then. So that really catch my thoughts, and it's like, okay, it's very interesting. And I've been following up because it's always been you and your wife always been doing a lot of content sharing. I see you've always been engaging with the students, especially because you always go back and you give back to the fresh graduates, especially. And also your contribution and your passion towards environment, it's a lot. I would say it's like you've been working really hard on your company, that's one thing, and your passion, it's very obvious. And also I came across when I was going through your company profiles, besides having this servicing and also being a consultant yourself, you do have a products to sell. So actually that's a very smart way of doing business, if you ask me. It's not only on servicing and consulting, but you have your product on your own. So that's what I wanted you to share more on your innovation mindset today, on especially on your products, on your journey, and how did you come with this business model and everything. So that's all about the podcast today. So do you mind share little bit introduction of yourself and your passion on environment especially?
Okay, all right. So thank you so much, Vishantini, for having me on your show today. And it's a pleasure for me to be here, and especially when it comes to a subject that I really am passionate about. When you are having this podcast of yours, yes. Okay, so again, Vishantini, I appreciate you following me on LinkedIn as well. And yes, at that particular day, I was making my bread, and I was thinking, I must make something of a value today, because all in all, what I can share with you and also others who is watching this video, it's not about the quality per se. It's all about the quantity of message that you want to reach out to people. All right. So regardless of where you are, how you're going to deliver it, whether good lighting or not, as long as you have a perfect message for everyone and beneficial for everyone, okay, that will be something that, for me personally, I would like to do on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So a little bit about myself, Vishantini, and also the others who is watching this good show. My name is Amar. I am an entrepreneur. professional engineer and also a speaker. And as Vijantini mentioned just now, yes, I do really love to give my sharing, especially to the young engineers and also to young graduates out there who is, looking forward to live their life, working, well towards their career and so forth. Because I do feel that, when I was at their age, I have a little of motivation for me at the time, because YouTube and all this social media was not that hype per se, right? Or at least for me, I was not in there at the time. So that's why I think it's best for me to give back whatever that I can, especially when everybody's online. And this is a good platform for us to do. So I think for me personally, I would like to give back to whatever students out there, especially, so that they could appreciate more on how to be better at what they want to do in life. Okay, because sometimes you just need that one word, Vishantini, for you to spark up your day or spark up your life in a way, right? So it did happen for me in a way. So I think everybody needs that medicine of motivation once in a while, right? So, all right, talking about environment, yes, I've been in the business for quite some time now, more than a decade already. And, it really develops my passion on a year-to-year basis, especially now when we look at environment as one of the biggest issue and the biggest thing that's, going on when it comes to climate change, especially because we are not talking about locally in this kind of sense, because when we serve or when we somehow provide a solution for local, of course, it will be on a bigger scale because everybody shares the same home, the same world, the same earth, right? So in this case, it becomes a drive for me, especially because I know that my bigger cause is not just for getting, a job, getting paid for doing the job, but also to save the environment as in a whole for my generations to come. Okay, so this is what I love about what I do, and I do, always talk about this when it comes to all the students out there. Find your passion, all right? Find your passion and your love as your cause in life, so that you can motivate yourself and run through life, without being tired and stressed, because for sure that whatever you do in life, you would feel that comfort or that entity that would say, okay, I did my best and this is what I'm born for, this is what I live for. So that would drive you on a day-to-day basis when it comes to delivering your work. All right, so not just the salary that you should look at, but also the passion of what work are you delivering on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so again, my business is all about helping clients out there, especially when it comes to industries, to comply with regulations, and we help to give them a peace of mind, Vishantini. We help to give them a peace of mind to make sure they can concentrate on their business, their main core business, while we cater for the environment. And at the same time, I would like to always, motivate my clients to make sure that whatever they do, of course, they have to pump in money in order for them to do that. They have to put a budget for them to do that, but to make sure that they do understand this is not just, a burnt out money or cost in a way, but also to make sure that they can know they create a good reputation, they create a good, ecosystem for them as a company and as a business entity as well, to make sure that they can show themselves as a good entity to protect the environment as a whole. Yeah. So this is what we do on on daily basis, Vishantini.
I can see so much of passion in you. When you were talking about what you're doing, I can see so much of passion. Well, this is a very good thing.
Because I love what I do.
Exactly. That's you're being a good role model, because when you go and speak to someone that you need to have your passion, you yourself have to portray that you are a very passionate person, right? So I think
You
you're
are
doing a
correct.
very good job. So
All right,
moving
thank you
on,
so much.
right? So I just want to know a bit of your thoughts into this, especially when you're having a company. I'm sure you have like a certain consultancy with some research universities to the academic thesis. So let's say you want to have like a collaboration with them, for example, or you want them to engage you as a consultant, especially those researchers in university levels. So when you're engaging, so what are your thoughts? When you are seeing you're having a collaboration with universities level, is there any gap that you can actually find their mindset, especially those researchers in universities, and what it's you being an innovator yourself in your business, you can see any gaps in the mindset itself? What is your opinion on this?
Okay, I think that's a very good question, Vishantini, if you could ask me personally, because as an industrial player, who basically goes on field to see what's the exact problem of what's going on right now, for example, I would say that there is a gap still when it comes to, on the education level, and also the industrial level. And the reason why I say that, because although I'm from UTM, and UTM currently is right now a good research university, which I really admire what they are doing, but still I would say there is a little bit of gap whereby the application from the research itself is still yet to be explored. Okay, what I mean is that, let's say for example, if I ask students out there, I could say most of them would do their final year project on something that would be based on research based, desktop based, or something that's academic based, I would say. And the reason why, because that's the only limit that they have. Okay, I would rather say and basically suggest that the students out there should be exploring, all right, in terms of making their final year project, maybe at their internship level already. Okay, in a way that they should apply, or they should see whatever problems on site before they could make it, at the desktop or lab and so forth. All right, because at the end of the day, you have to solve problems. That's the biggest thing that I think we are still a little bit of lacking. I'm not saying in total, but it's still a bit lacking, because I've watched this documentary, Vishantini, if I could share with you.
Yeah, definitely.
This, this tsunami episode, right, in Japan, for example, it has destroyed, crops, especially when it comes to the fertility of the land, right? So what happens is that, these, officers, or basically government officers, turn to universities for research. And, at this particular point, when I was seeing that documentary, and it mentioned about this student, which is very young, this student was very young, and he created a product, or basically a solution to basically make the land fertile again from the salt, or basically the sea that have already destroyed all the lands, and also especially the crops. So this eventually, you can increase the yield of the crops. You can return the economy again, and also to get the land to be fertile again, right? So it's a good a perfect system that I think should be implemented in a whole. Okay, again, I'm not saying that we are lacking in that, but I'm saying that there is a little bit of gap to make sure that we can try to improve, to make sure that whatever university or higher education institution is doing, we have to apply it on site. All right, we have to know the problem, and not just wanting to try to find things that we think is right. Okay, so I think finding a solution at a very practicable level, which is at site, is really important, as compared to the studying alone, as you just make a compilation of the book and then you just store it in the library and so forth. Okay, so I think that'll be very, very important for us to do.
Actually, that's a very good input if you ask me, because I personally have engaged with universities when whenever I would come up with some ideas, and I would want to extend it to university levels. Let's say they could actually run certain portion of my ideas. Well, the problem
Correct.
is they will always come back to me, or can we like collaborate with this project? So they also grab an opportunity to pitch about their projects and everything, because they want to collaborate. So one thing is they are not able to commercialize their products or their ideas, their research. So it's always an obstacle for them to commercialize, because if you look at it, they don't do, if you ask me, they don't have a certain market research that has been done on their projects. So they actually skip that process, and they straight away think, oh, they have this term called shock syndrome, that this thing is looks wow, and let's go ahead. I
Yeah, we
often,
all heard of that.
yeah, we often encounter that. So that's because I think the first step of the innovation process, you got to do a bit of market research, and you got to do a bit your customer journey and stuff. I think that's what's lacking in university level, and they just skip into straight away to the ideation process and prototyping and testing, but they never go to the first part of it. And it's end of the day, they find it very hard to commercialize. So I feel they are not being relevant in terms of the industrial level. I mean, it's my opinion, but it's not all. I think now universities actually grab the idea of it, and they're
I
actually
agree.
moving forward into commercializing, and I can see they're trying to solve the industrial needs. So hopefully the gap is getting closer and closer, and it's not a huge gap there.
I do believe so. I do believe it will go to that, small of a thin line someday.
All of thin line, true, true. So, talking about the products and innovations and everything, so I came across that your company is actually having some products and everything. So, what was your thoughts, and how did this idea came across, rather than doing just consultancy services? You actually also have your products. So, how does this innovation process came along this?
I see. Very interesting, Vishantini, because we started this, innovation I think a decade ago, when we had the opportunity to look and try to explore more options towards our business. Because at the end of the day, for me personally, I would like to look at opportunities on a year-to-year basis. So if let's say 2021 right now, what I can do different compared to last year, for example. So I would like to always improvise myself. And what happened during this?
That's a businessman mindset.
Yeah, I think, not just in terms of business, if I could share with you, Vishantini, I think everyone should have that kind of mindset to improve themselves the least, right? So for us personally as a human being, right? So let's say, for example, if I'm trying to improve my communication skill, for example. So I must make sure that I target myself to be a good communicator, to have a lot of speaking events, at least, that is the target that I should put forth, on different kind of years, right? So yeah, I do agree to what you said just now. Okay, so talking about our innovation just now. So the thing comes in after there was a problem that we saw, which is again the gap that you mentioned. So what we did was we did some research with a local university, which is UTM in this case, which my alumni in this case.
Nice.
So we had done a research with the university, and then we came up with a good finding, very good finding, where we saw that we wanted to solve the problem of hydrocarbons at the time. So how do you solve the contamination of hydrocarbons on soil? That was the issue at the time that we wanted to look at. So we came up with a product, and it was an enzyme product, which right now we have already trademarked it under our name, which is AMR Easy Enzyme. Easy means easy application, of course. All right, AMR means our company. So it's an enzyme base that basically gives the microbes at that particular soil, which we don't introduce new microbes, Vishantini. We introduce some sort of a steroid for them to grow in much bigger numbers and faster rates, to make sure that they can eat away those hydrocarbons very, very quickly. All right. So rather than for you to wait 100 or 200 years for them to disintegrate or biodegrade by itself, we put in a help, okay, which is using our enzyme solution for them to basically eat up all the contaminants there. So that's why when we talk about innovation, it started up with the problem first. Okay, so basically after a while, we saw that opportunity and we took that challenge to make sure that we can drive those challenges. And I would say we had a very, very a good position whereby an international company saw us in terms of our journal of our research, and that's why they wanted our help. And we are still serving that company right now in Saudi Arabia, as in current moment, to help them to conduct a groundwater bioremediation for their contaminated water underground. So again, innovation takes place if you saw opportunity, but you have to take challenge, of course. You have to take that first step, right? So if you saw opportunity and do nothing, nothing happens. So that's why I think innovation comes in very, very, importantly in this manner. And you have to take the opportunity well. You have to plan it well, systematic approach, of course, and then you have to have that market value for you to promote that to the world. All right, not just locally, but to the world. Yeah.
When you were saying all this biodegradable and all this enzyme, and then you were saying steroids, if I'm not wrong, you have to add on.
Exactly, that's just a term for
okay.
a layman concept for them to understand.
Okay, got it. I got that. So that actually is like triggering a lot of things that's running in my mind. Oh my, I can do this, can do that. It's a very, very catchy term if you ask me, biodegradable and all this sort of things. So talking about this innovation process, like what you were saying, yes, correct. You need to have the market value and the process got to be right, the workflow itself. But talking about that, what are the challenges that you actually face throughout this process, like in terms of resources or in terms of financial, in terms of the economic value itself, or in terms of the period of your research period? Because normally in business, you cannot drag your research. University, it's fine. You can do your PhD 3-4 years. It's okay. But it's not the same case in business. You got to do it as soon as possible, right? Because you are like investing a lot of money there, so you can't be dragging your research 3-4 years. So what are your challenges that you actually face in your innovation process?
All right, very good question, Vishantini. I think you are correct. Time in business is all about money. All right, because you cannot lose time, and in the end you lose money as well, right? Because again, like I mentioned to you, opportunity is there, and you have to think of ways on how to cut short the matter. All right, so for us, yes, innovation takes time, but it cannot take too much of a time for you to lose that opportunity. So in our case, Vishantini, I could tell you like this: we started the research years before, we see that that was a bigger problem for us. All right. So meaning to say that if my style would be that we want to start something earlier to make sure that if there is any problem later, let's say you're mentioning about a few years later, then we are able to cater for that in that period of manner, right? So let's say, for example, if you have a certain problem that you see in front of you, and I could tell you, Vishantini, that there's no way that you cannot solve that if you have the motivation to do it. All right. So a lot of times people ask me, how can I do this? How can I do that? Because I have the will, I have the motivation to do so, right? So you can outsource many, many things. But in this case, we were very opportunist in a way that we saw opportunity of solving issues concerning about soil contamination, water contamination, river, groundwater, wherever it is. We saw that opportunity firsthand, and we started the research years before it really, really became a hype. All right. So that's why I think in this kind of manner, you are very right. I mean, to make that research is a lengthy process. But again, the application wise, okay, if I could share with you, Vishantini, if I have a result there, I could just market and tell the industry that, I have a good result. You have to apply this. Let's make a pilot plant the least. All right. So we test it on a pilot scale level first, and then we apply it on a bigger scale. That's how we do it, in many of our projects, because at the end of the day, it's the assurance of the clients that we have to give, all right? Not just the solution, the assurance that it will help them in the end, right? So again, time is money. We just have to do whatever that's necessary, and finding the opportunity and trying it on a pilot scale will be the best level that I could recommend everyone out there to do.
That's a nice one. That's really, you concluded very well. So talking about this entire process, right? Because like what we have said, what we have discussed, we can see there's a lot of difference between doing innovation or research in university level and also in business aspect. Because like we already concluded, there is a gap. So in order to close the gap, so what is your advice to this younger generation, especially those fresh graduates and engineers who want to venture into research field, and they just want to start it off, like for example like a startup business? But of course any startups requires the innovation mindset. So what would be your advice on this?
Okay, I would say that, for the youngsters out there who wants to venture into research and, trying to change that concept of a module into something that could make you profit, I would say that you have to really, really be in depth with that problem in itself. Because if you're just looking at money, all right, I could tell you, Vishantini, for everyone out there also, you're going to lose it, okay? Because you're going to be stressed out, you're going to be, you're going to be demotivated because you don't have that money in the first place, right? So what I'm saying to you is that you have to have the passion to solve an issue first, all right? Like any businesses, if you look at, let's say Amazon.com, for example, they started out by selling books, right? And the reason why, because they want to make sure that everybody reads, all right? So that's a solution that they want to provide. And look how they grew right now, right? So in this case, you have to make sure that you know your purpose of what you're trying to solve, all right? The innovation that you are trying to put, and that, of course, it takes time. It takes your effort, right? So you don't want to do something that's not going to be purposeful or useful. Later on, it will be a drag for you to not do anything, or it becomes unsuccessful. So what you want to do is to plan well ahead to find a good, practicable solution in order for you to know that there will be a profit there to gain, all right? So again, let's not look at the profit in the first place. Let's look at the problem they're trying to solve. Similarly with me, Vishantini, when we build our products, for example, we do not know how much to sell and what to sell it to, who to sell it to in the first place. But later on, when we do the research, it became a journal, it became a paper, and people start to, really refer to this paper for their own research. And also later on, our clients came about to our journal, or basically our research paper. And that's how we became, a servant to our clients in that case, right? So what I'm saying to you guys out there, trying to find a purpose rather than to chase for the money, because once you find that purpose, you'll be, motivating yourself to find that money later on, and the money would come in. All right. So always, I tell a lot of graduates out there, you cannot just go to work and, be rich. All right. It takes process in a way that, you have to find it. You have to, culture your ethics and your attitude in this case. Because for me personally, I did not start up there and there to be an entrepreneur. I started working first, and then with an employer, and then suddenly, it builds up, and I ventured to business later on, carrying my experiences. All right. So in this manner, I think, you have to find your good purpose, and then only then you look at the profits.
Oh, thank you so much, Osama. That is so precisely said. So, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I can see that you've been going through. I mean, it's in a hands-on thing that whatever you've experienced and whatever you're sharing today, it's because you personally have gone through the process one by one. So it's not easy for who you are today, right now, managing and everything, because you actually went through from the scratch, from zero to where you are right now. It's the process that actually brings you where you are, right? So thank you so much for
Exactly.
your sharing today. It's
Thank you.
really very useful. I'm sure a lot of people will gain a lot of knowledge out of this. And you're very inspiring. Keep doing what you're doing, especially you and your wife. It's a very good teamwork. I can see that because I see that, it's always like it's the both of you all. That's it's actually another marketing itself because the
Yeah.
way you brand yourself, it's the husband and wife is doing it. Not many people does this, right? And not many couples actually have the same interest in the same field. I mean, you are very lucky with that.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly. So we talk the same language at home and also at office.
yes, it's a good thing. It's a
Yeah.
very good thing. I mean, you guys progress together, so that's a really good thing.
Exactly.
Very supportive to have your partner who knows what you're speaking. Otherwise
Exactly. Exactly.
it's very hard to make sure the other person understand what you're actually doing. So it's a good thing. So that's a very good branding. It's like an advantage for you, I'd say. But so all the best in your journey, and I hope to see more success from your end. And keep sharing. I can see that's a lot of passions from you, especially on what you're doing. Keep sharing, and you're really inspiring. Keep going in whatever you're doing.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
thank you
so
for
much,
your time
Vicente.
today,
And I wish you
Osama.
all the best also for your podcast. Very, very
Thank,
good effort there. Thank you so much.
thank you.